He was the dog nobody wanted. Day after day, families passed him by. He sat silently in his kennel, waiting, hoping, but no one ever picked him. Too old, too quiet, too serious. Excuses were plenty. The dog remained alone, overlooked again and again, until one man crouched down and noticed something others had ignored. A small tag on his collar. The moment he read it, everything was different. What happened next surprised everyone at the shelter. Before we begin, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And tell me, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories reach. In a crowded shelter filled with barking and wagging tails, one dog stayed quiet in the corner. His fur was black with streaks of gray, and his eyes looked gentle but tired. While the others barked and jumped for attention, he kept his head low. Families walked through daily. Parents with kids pointed at the playful puppies. Young couples smiled at dogs wagging their tails. People wanted pets full of energy, easy to love. No one stopped at the silent dog in the corner. The staff called him Max. He had been there for many months. When asked, they would explain, "He's gentle, but he's older. He doesn't play much anymore." As soon as people heard that, they moved on to the younger dogs. Each time, Max's spirit seemed to sink a little more. Day after day, he watched others leave with new families. While his kennel door stayed shut, his bowl was filled, and the staff cared for him. But it wasn't what he longed for. More than food, he wanted someone to notice him, to give him a home. Max wasn't aggressive or sick. He was simply quiet, as though carrying a sadness inside. The workers often whispered, "He's a good dog, but no one wants one who looks so sad." Their words proved true. Most people looked for cheerful companions. When children passed, Max would raise his head slowly, brown eyes filled with hope. But when they ran to another kennel, his head dropped again. His tail barely moved. It was as if he had already given up. The truth was, none of the visitors knew Max's story. They didn't understand why his eyes looked empty or why he stayed silent. To them, he was only an older dog with no spark left. But the staff hadn't noticed one detail either. Hanging from his faded blue collar was a round metal tag. Most assumed it was just an old, unreadable name tag. But that small tag held a secret, one that explained his quiet waiting. And one day, a man would read it. That moment would change everything. One afternoon, a man named David entered the shelter. He wasn't searching for a playful puppy or a fancy breed. He wanted a companion, a loyal friend to share his quiet life. The shelter was loud, dogs barking, tails thumping on cages, children laughing as they pointed at excited pets. David walked slowly along the rows. Most dogs barked and wagged desperately, hoping to be chosen. Then his eyes stopped at Max, sitting silently in the corner. Max didn't bark or jump. He simply looked up with deep, tired eyes. That look froze David. He knelt at the kennel. For a moment, neither moved. Then Max raised his head and pressed his nose gently against the bars. A small gesture, but it was enough. David's heart ached. "Hey, buddy," he whispered softly. "Why isn't anyone choosing you?" He placed his hand on the bars, and Max leaned into it, soaking in the touch. As David looked closer, he noticed something on Max's collar, a scratched metal tag. Curious, he turned it gently. The words were faint, but still clear. As David read them, he froze. His hands trembled, holding the worn tag. The letters, though scratched, were readable. "If you're reading this, I am no longer here. Please give Max a good home. He was my best friend." David blinked hard, his throat tightening. Suddenly it all made sense. The sadness in Max's eyes, the quiet waiting for someone who would never return. Max hadn't been abandoned. He had once been deeply loved, but his owner had passed away. A worker noticed David staring at the tag and nodded. "We found him wandering." No family came forward. "We believe his owner passed, just like the tag says. Since then, no one chooses him. Too old, too quiet." David looked at Max again. The old dog pressed against the kennel door, eyes locked on him, almost asking, "Will you be the one?" Tears welled in David's eyes. He imagined the loyalty Max must have given, and the heartbreak of losing his person. At that moment, David knew Max wasn't just another dog. He carried a story, a bond, and a final wish, and David realized he could fulfill it. He stayed kneeling, the words echoing, "Please give Max a good home." He pictured the love between Max and his first owner, the years of devotion, and the pain of being left alone. The worker spoke gently, "You don't have to decide now. Many people think old dogs are too much work." David shook his head, eyes still on Max. "He isn't work. He's just waiting for someone to believe in him again." Slowly, David reached through the bars. Max pressed his head against his hand. For the first time, Max's tail gave a small wag, almost unsure. That slight movement brought a smile to David's face and tears to his eyes. "I'll take him," David said firmly. "He deserves love again. If no one else wants him, I do." The worker nodded and brought the paperwork. As the kennel door opened, Max stepped out carefully, as though afraid it wasn't real. But when David clipped the leash on his collar, Max looked up with trust, ready to follow. At David's house, Max walked in slowly, sniffing corners as if uncertain he belonged. His steps were cautious, but his eyes brighter. David placed a soft blanket by the fireplace and set down food. Max hesitated, then ate, his tail wagging stronger this time. Over the next days, he changed. Once silent, he now followed David everywhere. He lay at his feet when he read, rested his head on his lap during TV, and curled by the bed at night, sighing with relief as if finally safe. Neighbors soon noticed. "That dog looks happy again," one said. David smiled. "He's not just a dog, he's family." One evening, David held the tag again. He whispered, "Don't worry, your wish came true. Max is loved, and he's home." Max lifted his head, eyes bright, tail wagging, as if he understood. Sometimes the ones everyone rejects are the ones who give us the greatest gift.